Hi and welcome to C++ tutorial 2.5 about integers. An integer, in its most simplistic form, can only hold whole numbers as I've previously stated. However, there's more to them than that. Integers not only specify whole numbers, but a whole range of numbers. It is not possible to exceed that range of numbers once an integer has been created. When an integer is created using the int command, it has a range of negative 21474836482 to 2147483647, which is quite a range. This means you cannot exceed either the negative value or the positive number. So let's have a look at the program so you can see for yourself what exactly is going on. We're going to start off with include, if I can type properly that is, include IOStream, and we're going to set up our namespace. And we're going to, that should be using, I do apologize. And we're going to set up our main function, so int. You'll notice int is here as well. Basically, when we hit the return 0 command at the end of each of our programs, it's actually returning an integer value. So what we're basically doing is defining our function so that it returns an integer. So main, open bracket, close bracket, and open brace. And now for our source code. So we're going to create three variables, iLow, iMid, and iHigh. As you can imagine, iLow will be the lowest possible number you can assign. iMid will be the middle number, and iHigh will be the highest number you can assign. We will then output that on console, and we will then see what happens if we exceed that number range. So int iLow equals negative 2147 483 and 648, and we end that with a semicolon, of course. And the middle number for this particular range will be int I mid equals 0, because it's going to be balanced in between the two, and int I high equals 2147 483 647. So as you can see, we got a negative range down here, and we got a positive range. So we're basically counting all the way up to this number here. And we're now going to output this result to console to make sure that the values I've typed in actually work. So cout, left shift operator, iLow, left shift, end L, left shift, iMid, left shift, end L, left shift, iHigh, and left shift end L, and we're going to add in another end L here to create a extra line between our two sets of displayed results. And now we're going to reassign. So in the true nature of the word variable, you can actually change the variables at any point in the program. So we don't need to create a new set of integers now. All we need to do is use our existing integers. So iLow equals negative. Now what we can actually do is copy what we've got up here and paste it there. Now what I'm going to do is increase it by the value of 1, or decrease it in this case. So it'll be 49 instead of 48, and end that with a semicolon. So this is just testing to see what happens if we go beyond the range by even 1. iMid equals 0 again, and I high equals Again, we're just going to copy this number up here. Might as well copy the semicolon as well. And we're just going to increase the range by 8. Now, if we copy this line and paste it in here, no point doing extra work. We don't need that extra end line for that particular line. And of course, we finish our program then with return 0. So again, return 0 is returning 0 to the function. So we've defined our function as an integer, and at this point of the program we return 0, and that ends the whole affair. So now what we're going to do is compile it and see what horrible typing mistakes I've made. And luckily there aren't any. So as you can see, we got 2 sets of ranges down here. We've got the ranges here as we typed it in. We got the negative number here, and it is correct down to the last digit. We've got mid is correct, and we've got high is correct down to the correct number. Now, if we have a look at the second set of variables, that's wrong. It's completely reversed. So what's going on here? Why is it reversed? And again, the same thing has happened here. Instead of being in positive, that's swapped round to negative. So what we're basically what basically happened is we've exceeded the number range. So what it basically does is wrap around to the other side of the number range specified. So the maximum number then becomes the smallest possible number, because it would just continue going around in circles. So every time you exceed the number range of the integer, your positive number will suddenly become a massive negative number, which is going to be a big problem in most software. So it's important not to exceed that particular range. Now, there is in fact another type of integer that you can create, and this is called an unsigned integer. So we've seen very different results. You'll notice the numbers have been reversed simply by exceeding, so I'm just going through my script here because I've gone ahead of it. Same thing goes. But as I say, there is another kind of integer called an unsigned integer. This changes the playing field a little by providing a whole range from 0 to 4294967295. So again, let's create an unsigned integer and see what happens. So what we're basically going to do is type in unsigned before each of these integer creations. So unsigned, and put unsigned in front of that, and unsigned in front of that as well. Now, what unsigned basically means is we lose the whole negative side of the spectrum. We start at 0 and we count to the 429,496,7295 number. So if we start here and we start that at 0, because that's our lowest possible point, now we're going to type in the big number here, which is 429,496,7295. Now, if we take that number into calc and we divide it by half, you'll notice we've got a 0.5 value. Now, this is the reason that you'll notice with our previous one, if I just return this to the correct numbers briefly to show you what I mean. With the previous signed integer, you actually had one whole number more on the low end of the spectrum than you do on the high end of the spectrum, and the reason for that is because if you divide the number by half, you get a 0.5 value, which of course integers cannot handle. So what we've basically done, what the designers have basically do, I should say, I can't claim credit for it myself, is add one whole number to the low end and just keep the high end as the same. So we're making up for both halves of that end of the spectrum. So we'll do the same here. We'll basically take We'll round it down to this number. And that would do. So that's our halfway point. And now, of course, we're going to do exactly the same as we did previously. We're going to go with -1. And we're going to go with the big number. And we're going to add 1 to that as well. And of course, we're going to take the midpoint just to make sure it's working and it's actually counting up properly. And now that we've done that, we're going to compile our program again. And you'll see exactly the same story as before. While the number range has changed, it's still accurate to what we typed in. So you've got 0, you've got the 2147 number, and you've got the 4294 number. Now down here, again, we got the same story as we did last time. We exceeded the one value by -1, and that, of course, wrapped it all around to the other side. And reduced the number by 1 because obviously it was increased by 1, or rather decreased by 1. So you've basically taken 1 off the high end of the spectrum. And if I'd gone -2, then that would have had been 9.4 and 9.3 and 9.2, etc., etc. So it would have just counted down depending on how far along the negative spectrum I had actually gone. And the same is true for the high. If I'd increased it by, because 0 is counted as a number, remember, because we've counted too high, it's basically wrapped it all the way down to the minimum number. And if I counted too high by another 1, it would have been the value of 1. And I'll show you there what I mean, just to compile it again. And again, simply by increasing the value by 2, we've now gone up to 1. So it's just cycling around like that. And the same thing here, it's just gone down by an extra 1 as well. So that's why you can't exceed an integer. It won't produce any errors or anything, but if you do exceed that value for whatever reason, I don't know what kind of crazy program you'll be running that requires a number this big, but I'm sure there are many out there. And that's basically it. So the rules are whole numbers cannot exceed the range of the spectrum assigned to that particular integer. So we cannot assign float numbers to it either. So we cannot put 0.5 or 55.559, whatever. You cannot assign those. It will basically reduce it down to an integer itself. If you wish to do that, then you will need to proceed on to my next tutorial, which will be covering floats and that weird E number that's produced when you exceed a certain number of places within the float spectrum. So we're just going to close that, and thank you for watching this tutorial. The next one, 2.2, will deal with floats, and that will be up shortly. If you want updates on when exactly it's going to be up, I've started a new blog. So if you go to blog.darkprinciples.co.uk, then you'll get a nice blog. Eventually I'll put a calendar, once I work out how to do it, on there so you can see it as a reference. But if you have a look under my C++ category there, we've got my previous tutorial. So C++ tutorial 2.1, internal data creation and management. We've got the whole script there for it, and we've got the source code. So if you're having problems copying source code off the screen, or if you're having problems where it's just not accurate or you're getting weird errors, then it's worth coming here and just copying and pasting that on there. It's usually down to a typing error or something when these programs do not work. Of course, if you're having additional problems, you can also post a comment or you can do it to the main video itself, and I will do my best if I have time to try and help you sort it out. No promises, obviously, because I'm busy writing all these tutorials for other users, but if I have the time, then I will do my best to help. So any user who's looking for updates on when tutorials are going to turn up, or the existing script, the 2.1 script will be put up after this tutorial, including source code as well. So
that should provide you with everything you need. So thank you for watching my tutorial, and I hope to see you back for 2.2. And please comment, rate and subscribe. The more support I get, and the more likely I am to produce bigger and better tutorials in the future. So thank you for watching.